Welcome back to Made Up of Wires, where we're decompiling the Tron Ares soundtrack. Go back to 1995-ish and tell a much younger me that Nine Inch Nails is doing soundtracks for movies, and that those movies are made by Disney. Oh, and by the way, Trent Reznor won an Oscar for Disney animated film. Not necessarily what I would have expected to have happen in life, but hey, that's the way things go. Oh, that's lovely. No graphs loading. Let's try to load these graphs. Hey, Dizit, good to have you back. Nope, Stream Elements came online. Hey, Stream Elements. Trying out Stream Elements. I'm trying to figure out how to integrate chats, both chats on screen at the same time. I know that may or may not violate some community standards of some particular streaming sites, but until I get in trouble, we'll see if that works. Stream Elements I don't understand. I kind of understand it, but it's supposed to have a thing to plug into OBS, and I've installed it, and there's no Stream Elements plugin. So I don't know what's going on. I don't see it on my disk anywhere. So anyway, we're going to keep going. I mentioned yesterday that I want to go back and look at the sword familiar a little bit. There was, I think there's just one function left, and it's one of the more advanced attacks. I don't think most people ever get to the point where they've leveled up the sword familiar enough to be able to use these attacks. But we'll take a look at it and see if we can make any progress there. I did spend a good deal of time, maybe 9 or so months ago, and I've done a little more in the GTE space since then. That's what was hanging things up, and so I think it might be good to go back and revisit that, and then we'll get back to Richter and keep working there. So let's start there. There isn't much to know about servants, I think. They are given a prefix TT. I think the sword familiar is 04. Is that right? Yeah, that's sword. They're their own overlay, so we have different types of overlays. We have there's the Richter / Maria overlay, which sits adjacent to the DRA overlay. DRA is the main game engine, and then if you want to play as Richter or Maria, that gets its own overlay separate from DRA. There's the stage boss overlay, which is the stage or boss you're in. There's the left hand and right hand weapon overlays, and then there's a familiar overlay. I think that's all of the different types of overlays, and they all have their own address space and memory. That memory is pre-partitioned at compile time to determine where those different things live, and that's really one of the major constraints for modifying the game or editing it. Everything that you'd have to change for one of those elements has to fit in the address space of that particular overlay, and there's some expectations as to what exists where. Fortunately, most of the overlays are set up so that either they call a function with a known address, as is the case on the PSP, or they look at the header, which has all of the offsets for the API for that specific overlay. So let's look at what we have left here. There's actually 3 functions. Oh, I really thought that there was only one left. Well, let's see which of those have... Oh, button, are you gonna not work for me again? Which of those have functions started? This is actually not one of them. Oh yeah, this is the cutscene function. I'm assuming all these will have something started, and that they'd also have been started by me. Or if not started by me, then at least I would have. Oh, I'm gonna have to convince Decomp.me that I'm in fact a human. Only 3 functions left for the sword overlay, not for Richter. Yeah, so it looks like I have this one. And we do have a PSP version started. I'm a little surprised that there are this many left. A couple of these. No, hopefully I have a PSP version reference there. And so we'll take a look at all of these. So the difficult thing about any of these, and this is that's the cutscene for Richter, we'll get back to that. The difficult thing about any of these is we have these different GTE, well, there's actually a couple things. We have scratch space or scratch pad offsets. The scratch pad is an area that normally would be reserved for a cache on a MIPS processor, like an instruction cache or a memory cache. But in this case, it's used for just whatever arbitrary stuff you want to put in there. It's on the processor. I think it's 1024 bytes, but it might be a little bigger than that. And so basically we're casting these raw memory addresses and have to do something with them. And then the other part of it is all of these GTE instructions. All of these are inline assembly. And what's nice about the inline assembly pieces is that we can go to the PSP and those become function calls, because the PSP, while it does have a GTE chip in it for backwards compatibility with PlayStation, the way that SOTN is implemented is to compile against the PSP SDK and re-implement all these GTE instructions against that SDK instead. So I do have a PSP version. Let me just check to make sure that that's the one I'm looking at. UN. No, that's not. So let's grab that. I'm not sure if any of these I want to work on. This one actually seems, if the biggest issue we're having is stack issues, maybe that's one to take a look at. And I mostly want to look at this just to break up the Richter stuff a little bit. So this pair here is the PlayStation and PSP versions of this first function. This next one is surprisingly close. What is missing here? An out of order move. Oh, that's fun. And a do while there to force some of that into the order that they wanted. So that's not real. Is that really the only thing that's wrong with this? So that one's terribly close. Let's see if we have a PSP version of that. We do. And is that this? EU Games is... Let's see if they have that section fixed. It'd be nice if we could merge 2 of these versions. No, yeah, they're broken there too. And so let's look at the PSP version of that. The PSP version is pretty close, but not quite there. And we don't have the same issue on 140, which is a bummer. I almost wish there was the same issue there, because then we might be able to figure out what's going on. So this could be a oh, look at this. I think this is the issue. 8017008 or 78, and then 801077C. So these likely are part of the same array. This makes no difference to the PSP because it just loads things, doesn't care. But GCC probably does care. And so let's look at this type. This is sign 16. So assuming that this is the same data, this might be an easier fix than I thought. So the other one is the 7C. So let's try that and see if that makes a difference. I'm gonna change this to 7.8, and then that's gonna be index 2. And there's no change here, because all of the same symbols are going to be wrong. But is that all we needed? Ooh, much worse, much worse. That's a bummer. You can always hope. Oh, getting rid of that do while actually solved that. Oh, is that it? Was that it? That was it. So that's why it's kind of good to come back to these after a while. You know, your brain stops thinking the way that it was when you got stuck. It looks like this 90 may or may not be part of this as well. Let's see if we can get this to build. So this is part of, it'll be part of sword.c. And this is B6C. Oh, did I get rid of the wrong boot ASM? Yes, I did. No, I didn't. Oh, it's this this reference here. There must be a symbol that got renamed along the way. So we can look at the map file. You can dump the symbols from the .o file, but looking at the map is probably the easiest. Where is my map? Or we can look at the symbol table as well. Assuming that it exists there, not 0. Check sword level. I'm not sure. Oh, this must be a static function, which is static functions won't show up in the map. Oh, and that worked. So much easier I'm sure I was extremely frustrated at not being able to solve that many months ago, and it turned out to be not a problem. I'm not sure if this 90, we can look at the data to see if this 90 seems like it's in the same array. Yeah, let's look at it as we can see. See what it looks like. So we'll look at ASM-US servant TT004 data, and not sure where this data is going to be. Let's just look at them all. It's just in sort. It'd be good to go through and start looking at this data as well. So the partitions that we see here are not, they're kind of best guesses based on the addresses that appear baked into the instructions. So SPIM comes through to disassemble everything, and it says, I see addresses have to come in pairs of instructions. And so it has some heuristics to determine when an address is being calculated. So it has to load the upper 16 bits and then the lower 16 bits. And then likely there's some load for those values or something. So it's actually kind of complicated to find the addresses programmatically. But that's what SPIM does. And so if it sees an address baked in and then sees another like hard-coded offset baked in as well, it doesn't know whether those are part of the same array or not. It just knows that those exist. So there are other things that are between that array and other things that come later. So I'm not as convinced that that's that any of this is continuous. Let's look at these other ones down here. Yeah, even these, while they're contiguous, I think they're just globals that happen to be next to each other. So I don't think there's anything more that needs to be done there. And as this data is pulled out, we might discover other things along the way. And there were things like this where it's known what these values are being used for, but they appear to be just separate values the way that the memory is used and loaded. I do want to look quickly to see. So this worked, and that's great. Happy about that. Is the PSP okay? The PSP looks okay. So I think that one can be closed out altogether, which is awesome. 3 months, and now it works. That's not that long ago. 3 months. When were these other ones? I'm pretty sure I started this more than 3 months ago. Yeah, 10 months ago. That seems about right. So let's mark this one as an override. Hey, thanks, Stream Elements. Thanks for showing up. Appreciate it. All right. 97 is not the best. And what are we seeing here that is an issue? Hopefully it's something as simple as that other one. So 188. The big thing seems to be the order that this is being calculated. It seems like it's being done before. And I think there's a PSP version of this as well. Let's drag this back over. Front of the line. Let's go. Too many tabs. I'm sure there's a support group for people who keep too many tabs open. I should join. All right, so the first thing may be an easy one or not, depending. We'll find out. We're just using the wrong register on 59, which unfortunately is not something we control. There are no variables here, so these registers are just chosen by the compiler. Supreme Quetzal, good to see you. Didn't see the stream in your home feed. Is that one of those things that YouTubers are always going on about, like being like shadow unsubscribed? I don't know. Smash that like button, hit the bell. I don't think I've ever hit a bell on anybody's channel, so if you don't hit the bell on my channel, I'm not offended in any way. I do like the people that I subscribe to, otherwise I wouldn't subscribe to them, but I don't know, I don't need to get another notification for another thing. Reality Rogue on YouTube is asking, for those looking to mod the PS1 version, is that available to do as of now, or would you suggest waiting until you're fully done decompiling everything? There are definitely mods that can be done, and I've gone over some of them here. The difficult things about modding. So I think the PlayStation probably is in the best place for modding. The big issues are every stage contains all of the enemies, elements, everything but the character, weapons, and familiars, basically, that exists in that stage. And so if you want to, like one of the mods that I did on stream was changing it so the chair, you could, and this is actually a bad example now that I think about it, but if you sat in the chair, it would regenerate your health over time. And that particular code actually existed in the game engine and not in anything related to the chair entities, so it was kind of a universal mod. So really you need to find out where those things are. Right now, if you mod something in the main game engine, that will shift addresses for all of the API functions. Sometimes that's fine, and sometimes it's not. Right now, we're not exporting the addresses for API functions dynamically. I do want to change that, but the build system is just not set up to do it. And so because the addresses aren't shifted dynamically, when you recompile another stage overlay, it doesn't know how to find the correct thing. So that may be an issue. What other issues it's very early on, and so between build tooling and what we have and have not compiled, there might be issues, but other people have been very successful modding things into it. If you follow or know Modzilla made a mod recently that I thought was pretty cool. The L2 button is not bound to anything by default in the game, and so he bound it to a pop-up that shows you what relics you currently have, and that's not super relevant for most people when they're playing the game. You do need to collect certain things to progress, but it is more relevant for speedrunning and people who are in tournaments like that trying to determine what they have to map their path. The other big mod that Xianimo, who is the person who manages the project, they were able to port the PSP Maria into the PlayStation version of the game. But again, he has a lot of very specialized knowledge of how everything works in the build system, and so it required a bunch of that. So Can you mod the game? Absolutely. There's been a bunch of things that have been modded, both on this channel and by other people. So it definitely is possible. But is it straightforward? That's another question, I think. I don't know if that answers the question, but yeah, so actually shuffling room entities, anything that exists like within the context of a stage, if that stage has been fully decompiled, should be pretty malleable. I think we know pretty much everything there is to know about how the stage data works now. So I think that should be fine. 74 here. We have a ternary, but it looks like the arguments are switched. I'm going to try switching those. Let's just try switching the sign. Okay, that works out there. Yeah, no problem. I think there's two kind of main, no, I would say three. Let's go with three main purposes for the game. Here's one of these GAPI calls, by the way. So this is what I was saying. So this particular address is baked in to this GAPI struct. And so if you make some change in the game and this GAPI struct ends up moving, this address becomes invalid. One of the interesting things, and maybe that's why they made the game this way, most of the data that is shared between stages and overlays exists in what we refer to as main, but it's the basically the control program for the game, the one that BIOS loads. Most of the shared memory is actually allocated by that file. And so that means that file doesn't really change. And so globals that are allocated there, it doesn't matter if you change DRA around and memory gets shifted all over the place, because those will always stay the same as long as it's not getting updated. So it might not be as big of a concern as I'm making it out to be. 135, again, some register issues. What I'm ultimately looking for here is, it would be nice if I found some variable like this prim, for example, prime, no, prim, primitive buffer, primitive struct, sorry, that I could obviously identify as being misused somewhere, and we can track the registers pretty closely. Like here, down in 204, all of a sudden this is not being used as expected, or I should say a register that I'm not expecting to be used is being used. Oh, where did that go? Let's get back there. So here, the S5 register is tracking with S0, and I would expect that to continue basically for the rest of the file. But down here on 204, all of a sudden that switches to the S0 register. That's not terribly common on the PSP. Hey, Nate. Good to have you back. Hope the job hunt is going well. You tend to order a lot of groceries. I should come over one day. And I actually was, I think you're out in Texas, if I remember correctly. I had a trip to Texas planned in between Austin and Houston. I have some family, and I had to cancel it last minute because we have a family event here that's conflicting, and something that I have to be at, which is a bummer. My grandfather is turning 95 years old. That's what I was gonna go to. He's gonna turn 95 at the end of October, and I actually have a grandmother who's older than that. And I like going out on milestone birthdays. Payday hype. Nice. Nice, nice. Okay, so these last and next pointers possibly have something to do. You could track these registers along with these other values. I'm not sure that I'm feeling that right now, though. There is something odd about this register allocation. At one point in my life, I had the chance to move to Texas, and I chose Washington instead, Seattle area. And I don't know if that was a mistake or not. I like Texas. Washington, Seattle is beautiful in the summer, but that's all I can say about Seattle. I'm gonna put this one aside for the moment. Actually, let's take this over, because there was that one comparison change. Oh, look at this. These are not synced, are they? Let's try to find that comparison change that was here on 74. Yeah. Let's get that. It would be shocking. Yeah, so this is a difference, it looks like, between maybe a bug fix. Oh, what do we have here? We have this 7C and 7.8. So we know, what do we know about those? We know that they are an array, and did I know that already here? That's the other thing that has to be managed as well when you're doing this, especially with these longer files. As you discover data types for global memory, you gotta go back and fix those from time to time. Oh, so I did know that here. So this was something I knew and then forgot. But going back to 74 here, this looks like it was a PSP change. I'm gonna go with PSP on the positive. Determining which version to default to and which to not, or like specify, is a hard problem as well. So say we have this all decompiled, and then you want to build the game for Android, for example. Like you want to build a native Android version of the game, which could be possible. Which version of the game do you build, and how do you want to specify it? Or do you care? Like if you want the best version of all the things, you want all the bug fixes from PSP, or you want to not have the regressions. There's some regressions that came into the PSP version because it wasn't based on the US version, it was based on the JP 1.0 version. Lots of choices. I'm going to close all these down, and we're going to go back to Richter. So thank you for joining me during my sword aside. And we'll get back to the regularly scheduled programming. All right, so we have most of these except for the cutscene one at the top, which I haven't gone back to. Most of these are probably duplicates. But we need to make sure that that's the case. And dupes is relatively easy to run, so maybe I should drop the duplicate threshold down to like 80% and then see if there's anything new. Oh, happy birthday. You're going to party tonight to be sick on your birthday. Hopefully not. Reality Rogue said that it's tricky to transfer entities between stages. Yes, but I actually think it's a little easier. There are a few issues. There's always issues. And most of them are build related. And I've been thinking about this a little bit as well, mostly related to the MetroWorks. So PSP was compiled with MetroWorks. MetroWorks has this concept of a MetroWorks overlay, which is how games of this era worked, where basically you're just taking data from the disk, copying it into memory, and then executing that. Those MetroWorks files have a header of 40 bytes. No, sorry, 64 bytes, 40 hex. And right now we're just copying that from the original version of the game into the version that we're compiling and then comparing against. But if you were going to go down the path of making a mod, that wouldn't work because those have all the sizes for all the different segments in that file. And somebody just recently, and this was in, we talked about this a bunch in the Discord tooling, Soten Decomp tooling channel. Somebody has found the header file for that structure. And so we should be able to actually build that as part of the build process. But even then, so to do a mod, we would have to build that structure dynamically, which is fine. We know what it looks like, and we can do that. We're basing all the builds based on the splat configuration, and splat is what we use to break apart the files, but it also generates some linker scripts and other things like that for putting everything back together. What we need is a way to generate that linker script without splat, because if you're adding, like, say you're moving skeletons into the castle entrance, you need all the skeleton related files and sprites, but the splat linker script is not going to know about any of that, so you have to have another way to link all those files in. And how do you do that? Right now our tooling doesn't make that easy or straightforward to do. That hasn't been something like the MetroWorks overlay stuff. To me, like, mentally, I understand how that would work and like what work would be required. The other stuff about building a I think we did this one yesterday. Dynamically building the linker script without splat becomes a more difficult problem. Yeah, okay. We did that one yesterday. The next biggest one that is unnamed is here. Yeah, that one was renamed yesterday. Let's see if this one is still here. We have this. So this one is between Subweapon Crash Cross and subweapon cross trail. My guess is that these are going to, that this is also going to be a duplicate, and we'll see if there's a name for this in Richter. All these, not all of them, most of them are analogous to things that are in Richter already. And my working theory is that all these were basically copied and modified. That's the way Doppelganger looked. It looked like a lot of the Alucard code was copied between the two Doppelgangers, and even copied from each other. And there are differences between others that look like maybe they were fixed in one and not in the other. So let's look for crash cross. That is not in this file. And so I'm gonna mark that this is a split here, crash cross. Let's see what the function is immediately after this. Revival column, and I think, oh yeah, it says creates the white column around Richter when he's revived. We talked about a little about this on the stream as well. So as Richter is coming up during this cross crash, there are crucifixes that spin around him. And somebody popped in the stream. They had made some other overlays and transitions for videos and streamers and YouTube and things like that. And they wanted to know where the sprites were for that crucifix element. And it turns out that those are actually 3D polygons with textures applied to them, so it's not something that you can just pull right out and use. So I'm going to assume that this is the revival column, and we're going to use this as the base for decompiling this 4200. And if it's not, we'll pivot and do what needs to be done. When I was talking about the reasons that we decompile, so modding is definitely on the top of the list for why many people are wanting to get the decomp done. Porting to other platforms is a big one as well. And really for me, it has always been about just understanding the game and the tooling, and kind of figuring out the historical context for a lot of these things. But always kind of keeping in mind that, sorry, just copying this. Like what are the priorities that other people have as well? Grabbing this data type. This does not look the same. Okay, so this is the wrong one. So let's get back to what decomp.me gave us, and we'll start over. I'm gonna look real quick for some of these other functions and see if we can tell what this might be. Could be subweapon cross. Do we have that? We don't, so let's try that. Mostly I don't want to redo work. If there's something new, great. I'll happily work on it. But if somebody else has done the work already, I think it's a waste of everybody's time to decompile it again, unless there's, you know, some novel reason to do that. I'm going to grab these types. I would like to, I have in the past reached out to the Video Game History Museum. It's probably reason we're far enough along that I think that we've probably made a pretty significant contribution to understanding of not just Symphony of the Night, but a bunch of the PlayStation SDK stuff as well. I'm gonna get these macros in place. I don't have these in the header yet. PLT, I will have that. So I'll grab that. Those are the timer definitions. The blueprints I don't have. I'm just gonna, so I don't have those in a header yet. So I'm just gonna grab the ones from Richter individually, if it's easy. BP5, I'm guessing is just the number 5. Subweapon cross and particles. I don't want to copy all of this yet because it might not be accurate for the Richter boss. So I'd prefer to just grab the ones that I need. Coincidentally, these are 3, 4, and 5. And this is much better. We are missing a little bit of code here and there, but the structure seems to be about the same. An extra location in the jump table. All right, so let's put this side by side with the decomp. We'll go down to 23. So yeah, we've seen this a couple times in the past couple days. Basically, there's a missing initialize entity call, and I think that's because normally you're the player, and the player will have certain things like pre-allocated, so there probably is a specific entity slot reserved just for the Richter subweapons that doesn't need to exist otherwise. The flags are probably different. Looks like that's not quite right. Let's let M2C do the work for us. And then this hitbox state, global. So we'll have to figure out what that is. I'm going to make it assign 32 for now. Let me throw this in the context with self so that it's one less variable to keep track of, one less symbol name. One thing that I'm considering doing, and I've one other major project outside of streaming that I am working on. We're missing one assignment somewhere in here to offset B0. That's an entity extension. Let's look at the cross boomerang. So it's going to be the first, no, sorry, this unknown 80. And what is being stored there? Just the number 4. I'm going to do some research first, and then, nope, not this. Oh, B0, not 80. Otherwise, that's correct. So I use a Mac as my primary. Let's look at sub-weapon ID as my primary computer, and I've done that for how long? Over 20 years. I've also had a lot of FireWire equipment around the house, and enjoy using that as well. And Mac OS 26 has dropped support for FireWire. And so here's our store here. It's a half, not a word, so I'll change that to a sign 16. So I think what I'm going to try to do is start documenting, I haven't upgraded yet, but start documenting the implementation of the FireWire driver and see if I can reverse engineer that, decompile that as well. A lot of these symbols are going to have analogs, and so we'll rename those. Thank you, Dizik. 37. So -7 EFF. That's too many numbers for me to think about, so I'm gonna take that to a calculator. Negating this will give us the correct number. Oh, 7 FFC. That's not as many numbers. I think that's just 8, right? Nope, 4. Sorry, wrong way. There we go. I'm not gonna worry too much about the symbols yet. Let's get the instructions first. Sub-weapon params, we've seen this as well. It doesn't seem to be something that's called. It's called to sub-weapon cross is happening, or the assignment here is happening much earlier. And step, we saw this as well, is just being assigned to 1. So sometimes these little changes, there's a couple things that could have happened here. And so you try to think, like, why is this different? Why do these little subtle changes exist between this version of this function and the one that was used for Richter, when most of this is identical? My guess is that 2 different people were working on these, and every once in a while they would sync their code, and probably the guy who was developing Richter was kind of throwing code over to the person working on Boss Richter. And at some point, Boss Richter guy said, I'm far enough along, I'm close enough. I don't need your code. Or like, basically, there's no time to keep integrating your code. That's what I think happened. And like I said, we see similar things on Doppelganger as well. This is part of case 2. Is it this hit flags? No, I'm looking at, where's case 2? Is there no case 2? There might not be a case 2. There is. Just is happening in the middle of case 1. That's fine. So this is a fall through the var A1 assignment. This is a artifact of the branch delay slot. So there's no good, otherwise good, better place to put the var A1 assignment other than the branch delay slot, so it might as well go there. But if you jump right into case 2, you have to set the variable anyway, so the code gets duplicated. And I think there's just not enough context there. Where is that 1000 being used? It's this value here. The step assignment to 3 is interesting as well. I think that's reasonable. Basically, if we were in step 1 and the pose wasn't set, we want to make sure that we're going to fall down into step 3. So I think then this is the rest. Why did this show up as arc 0 though? Didn't I change this to make it self? Thank you, Dizik. So let's grab this and see how much of this will work out. We don't have the var v0 variable. Var v0 is just getting assigned directly to velocity x, so it probably isn't a real variable. I'm going to keep the ordering, and if it doesn't work, then I'll switch the ordering back. We do need to figure out what the first field of the cross is. Timer. And these timers are important for odd that it's getting set twice, but I don't doubt it. The timers are important because this isn't the player, and so they're used by the program to determine when the next input needs to happen. And so it's going to wait a little bit. This is odd. This is a dead store. Usually GCC recognizes this and would get rid of the instructions for it, but in this case we have it, so that's fine. Done to case 3. So somewhere I'm either in the midst of this or somewhere else. We have some additional code, so let's go look at that. So yeah, some checks for hit flags. We already have a variable. So this was an else. And the way that the code is written is kind of funny. Is that going to be an else? I'm gonna try this. The code gen says go into this condition, set it to this unless facing left was set, and then set it to the same thing that we set facing left up here to. I think that's just how the compiler generated the code. I don't think it's actually written like that. Hey, Rice Remy. Oh, no problem. You're very welcome for the work and the streams. And I'm glad you enjoy watching the videos later. It makes me happy that other people find value in this. I largely do this for myself. Having a community of people interested in the game and decompiling and tech is fun. But then, I mean, I've been doing this for about a year and gone from like having done zero matching decompilation to I think being a reasonably significant contributor to this project has been, personally very fulfilling. And did we get all that? No, we didn't. So there is an additional check here. There is not. So how should this be written? There needs to be a default value somewhere, so there must be a else here. I think we'll figure out after all this is worked out. Oh, this is gross. This is gross. I'm not sure if this works because it works and the optimizer comes in and is cleaning all this up. But I don't, what is the point of this? Why do these checks? So if we're facing left, we're going to set it to this value, or we're going to set it to this value. Then we're going to do these checks, and then we're going to do exactly the same logic? What sense does that make? Yeah, that is actually something that I find really interesting as well. So when I think I realized it around the time of Jiro Dreams of Sushi, if you've seen that documentary. And it was just enthralling. There were some other documentaries around the same time, probably Helvetica. What else? What other ones can I think about? And they're just like people doing a really good job, or maybe not even a really good job, but a job. And they're excited and they're passionate about it. So here it looks like maybe we're comparing against a global instead of a fixed value. I'll go check the decomp and see. But I found that like it seems like maybe the same as you. Watching people who are good at their job do their job is really interesting. I'm gonna try putting this in and seeing if that's what's, no, that's not what's missing. So there is another variable. What are we doing? We're loading that, adding one to it, and then storing it back. We're storing back, it looks like step plus plus, that is this here. What are we storing back to V1? 3C is that params? I think it's params. So let's try that. So we're gonna make this a global sign 16. Oh, we have it already, great. What are we setting it to up here? Oh, hitbox state. Let's try hitbox state. I thought 3C was params, but I guess I'm wrong. So we got the assignment to 3C here, which is fine. Why are we... What's happening up here? No. Is it only happening here? No. So there's something else going on here. Let's grab this decomp. So we do the step increment, and then this has us jumping to block 54. And block 54, I'm guessing, is default. So we're breaking here. And if we go all the way down, this is probably missing. Not quite. Yeah, I can't make any assumptions about this yet. What's happening here appears to be that we're jumping into some shared code, and so one of these steps probably has an extra step plus plus in it. And when I find that, I will say something about it. Oh no, this is happening up here. So let's move this up. But it does look like this is breaking, and it really is about. Let's. I could move this around all day, but let's look at what M2C says. Yeah, so they have it the opposite. So we're restoring. Got it. That makes sense. More sense than what I was trying to do. Restoring to offset 3C, not restoring to the global. That makes sense. Oh, and we are falling through. I was wrong. All right. So then there's a bunch of code missing at the start of case 5. Go pick that up, and there is going to be some code missing a little later on. And then 161, let's check that out. What I think this is a case 8. We could go back and look at the jump table. Actually, no, it's not a case 8. There's, for some reason, we're generating an additional entry in the jump table. So what is this? We have 14. And then here we have 1 C, but this should be a 6. And that gets rid of our... so they must come in multiples of 2. And that lets us get rid of one of those, and that is correct. So the step IDs are a little different between the two. And then let's get this code at the end. We'll go back up and finish the others. The end is actually when M2C decompiled it, it put it in the middle. So this default, so we see all these up here. So we need to kind of work through that. Here's our assignment to 2, and then we have hit flags and flags getting set. I think that's what is missing. Let's just double check that is what I wanted, and it looks like it. Oh, why did this come back? So I'm wrong about this now. Does it thinks I need to add a K7, so let's try it. Oh, interesting. Didn't expect that. Oh, our K7 is actually here, and it's just happening where I don't expect it to happen. So we're subtracting 1 from the timer in case 7. Let's try to do this without doing anything. And the rest of it is actually just code that gets done before we break, I think. So we have ext cross boomerang timer minus minus. Oh, and that shifted this around quite a bit. It's the same as this. Oh, dude, that's what it is. This was case 7, and there is a different case 6. That makes sense. What's our case 6 doing? We don't know. That is starting now the same way it looks. No, not quite. No, let's just get rid of that. So there's a new case. I was wrong about but it starts out the same way. So we're decrementing, but not destroying, just setting these others. Are we updating the velocity before or after using it? Oops. Sorry. Here we're loading the word at 1E. It looks like it's just backwards. Okay, so what is causing the... We're loading this position Y value too early. Oh, is it only setting it? Is that... No, it is loading it. It is doing the plus equals. The issue is what order these are being loaded in, and what order, sorry, I can't find my position. It's this assignment that is the most critical, this setting velocity X, which we're setting here. Or sorry, velocity Y, right? And that is being loaded second, so that's fine. I wonder if these are being pulled out into variables, or if there's no... I'm trying to hold option. I keep hitting the wrong... keep hitting command. There we go. So our branch here is going to a slightly different place, which is odd. So let's see what the difference between 4D8 and 490 is. 4D8 is destroy entity. So I see. So if it's... And why is M2C not finding this? I see. It's doing the go-to. So we do have this same thing at the top. And that's why it looks so similar. And all that looks fine now. And so the last one is this case 5. Let's see what M2C tells us about it. So another check with hit flags, decrementing the timer, and then setting all of this, and then everything else I think is the same. So again, just like more timer management, we don't have a human pressing buttons, so we have to do all the weighting and everything for the person. This is a a fun compiler trick. It's ANDing the value of temp v0 with 8000 chat. What's it mean? I'll start typing, and you beat me to the meaning. always want to type range, don't I? Timer. Okay, I'm about to give the answer. Is it nodding that? Did it not that? No, it didn't. It's less than 0. The 8,000 is masking everything but that top flag. And that the top bit is roaming. Good job, roaming. Appreciate it. The top bit is the sign bit. And so that's a cheap way. Is it cheap? Is it really that much cheaper? GCC compiler authors thought it was cheaper. Let's go look at the instructions that it produces and see if it makes a difference. Ultimately, that is what the compiler did, but that does look correct. Let's, I mean, there is no difference between these two. Interesting, it's not actually what, why would M2C come up with that? Oh, it's the shift. Yeah? I don't know. That's bizarre. Bizarre to me. But I think that's it. So we have a bunch of symbols. Let's fix those. And then I think we're good. Let's give these the same name. Player we need to be Rick. Some of these are going to need to be OVL exported. The reason, if you haven't been following along, the reason we do OVL export is if we're compiling for, we haven't started this, but it's a consideration, the Xbox 360 version, for example, or the way that we're currently working on the portable builds. Instead of having overlays or libraries or other things like that, what we do is build everything into a single binary. And that's, I believe, how the Xbox 360 version is built. It's just a single executable. But when we do that, we need things that have duplicate names can't exist. You can't have two functions with the same name. Oh, what did I do? I exported it twice. So we use the OVL export macro to basically prefix with the overlay names so that we have unique names for things that are otherwise similar. If we can determine that they are actually identical, we may just leave those symbols alone, and then the last one to be compiled wins, basically. Let's add these symbols here. Hey, OTM. Good to have you. All right, so I'm going to add symbols. Can I even? So this lets us keep the same name that Richter has, and this is the same thing. Technically, if I tried to compile this along with Richter and had a symbol with the same name, if that symbol isn't static, we may run into issues. Even if it is static, you can still run into issues because the symbol exists in the object file. It's just not supposed to be visible, but the linker can see it. And there was one more, I thought. Maybe that was it. We have the blueprints, though, and the blueprints ended up being the same. So I think I'm going to copy the blueprint enum as well and make a note that it should be shared. And at some point, I'm going to have to make a decision which of the enums are shared between the Richters and which are not. I just want to check one last time to make sure that these are... Oh, I didn't do gplayer. All right, so I think that's good. I'm going to keep this... can I get... What can I get rid of here? Anything? No. All those are being used. I'll worry about cleaning up the declarations later. I get the lost music. And we need to rename this function as well. Now it's ends in 4200. Let's go grab the blueprints. And I'm going to keep the, I'm not going to put the symbol name in yet. If it works out, then I will switch this function name to the common one. Oh, no, that's not what I wanted. Come on. All right, so we have, these should be X-turned if they're not already. All right, so something catastrophic has gone wrong. Let's see if there's compiler issues. There are. So I'm missing these, this enum as well. I think I have the anim cross boomerang symbol. I did add that, and I think maybe my button didn't switch as quickly as it should have. Let's grab the subweapon enum. And I might have screwed up my build. Nope. Yeah, that was it. So blueprints, actually, those are, we have those now. I'm going to keep the PSP definitions in here. I like to keep them around because they probably are correct, even though this isn't being done yet. So let's update that symbol name. And we're going to call this B06 RIC entity subweapon cross. Its address is the automatic name. And then just grab that, change it to an OVL export. And it should work. I haven't noticed this before. Oh, it's because I have other symbols in the middle. So that all looked perfect. Perfect in every way. So another one in the books. I mean, there's still 90 or so left to do. Not a small number by any stretch of the imagination, but we'll get it done. So we're decompiling Castlevania Symphony of the Night. You're watching Made Up of Wires. I appreciate everybody who shows up every day to come along this journey with me. How far along are we? Last time I checked, we were around 40%. We might be a little closer. Things have slowed down a bit, but things are going. So it looks like there's only two stages that haven't been started in the first castle. Most of the second castle hasn't been touched. That's kind of a bummer because I found that during our top is an extremely small stage, so it may not be applicable to the other ones, but our top was almost identical to top except for the enemies. And so as we're getting kind of to the late stages of some of these, I think it makes sense to do them at the same time and get a lot of that duplicate code out. I'm pretty sure I'm not sure why we're getting errors for some of these, but we are. And so here we are, BO6. Not an accurate representation of what's done because I haven't checked everything in yet, but along its way. And yeah, I think we're still in the 40% range. The bosses are hard, and they're going to take a while, and we have most of them to do yet. I did not do the first boss. This Maria boss is the Maria cutscene, which is a little easier than some of the others. Medusa, I worked on a little bit. Medusa was the first boss that was done. I don't know why Medusa was chosen, but that's what it was. And then I've done BO4, BO6, and RBO5, but it definitely is a place that needs some love. And we got one of the 3 remaining sword familiar functions done, which is sweet as well. Go to soten.z.dev to learn more, and join us on Discord. That's all I got. Adios.